So the Philadelphia 76ers disappointed once again as they just lost in a Game 7 to the Atlanta Hawks. This was a season where the Philadelphia 76ers finished with the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference, and they had a somewhat open path all the way to the conference finals, and they ended up losing to the 5th seed Atlanta Hawks. This is a team filled with a bunch of veteran and experienced players, and they lost to a team filled with a bunch of young players and not even one top 10 or even top 15 player on their team. So it's kind of obvious after such a disappointment like that, the 76ers are going to be looking to make some significant changes in this year's offseason. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about 4 things I think the Philadelphia 76ers should do this offseason. But before we get into the video, I ask you to drop a like on this video as it does help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want weekly NBA content and to the goal of 1,500 subscribers. Comment on this video, start a conversation with me as I First thing I think the Philadelphia 76ers should do this offseason is a thing that everyone is talking about, and that is that they should trade Ben Simmons. And this is mainly due to the fact that in the postseason, Ben Simmons was absolutely horrendous. He wasn't even helping the team really. He was just a liability on offense with his inability to shoot. He literally shot 33% from the free throw line as a point guard for his team, and that's truly unacceptable. If your point guard can't play the last 3 to 4 minutes because of his inability to shoot free throws, you're simply not going to win a championship like that. And yes, he impacts games in other ways with his defense, rebounding, and his overrated playmaking, but if you aren't scoring the ball, at a certain point you're negatively impacting the team. If you didn't know this, in the last 4 games combined, Ben Simmons only scored 19 points as an all-star. That is absolutely terrible. And the problem with Ben Simmons isn't even the fact that he doesn't have a jump shot. Well, okay, that's a problem, but it wouldn't be such a huge problem if he started being more aggressive driving to the rim. He's literally 6'10", 240 pounds with a 40-inch vert. He should be dunking on players every possession. Obviously, that's an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. He should be driving, attacking the rim. Because literally this whole series, the Hawks were putting guys like a 6'4" Bogdan Bogdanovic or a Danilo Gallinari who's slow as hell guarding him. And he could just constantly body those guys or drive past them. Yeah, he decides to just kick it to like guys like Matisse Thybulle for 3. And whenever those guys were guarding him, he would just pass the ball, not even try and score. And I don't think Ben can ever be great if he doesn't try and like be more aggressive. And he simply hasn't improved at all on the offensive side of the floor since his rookie season, which is absolutely horrible. He has the opportunity to be a superstar and a top 5 player in the NBA, but I don't know if he can even be a top 20 player in the NBA if he keeps doing this. But although Ben Simmons is a very, very flawed player, there are many teams that would be interested in trading for him. And one of the teams I think is the Portland Trail Blazers. And I think they should maybe trade Ben Simmons to the Blazers and get CJ McCollum in return. And I think this is a trade that's very realistic since both the 76ers and the Blazers had disappointing losses. And it kind of seems like their duos have run their course. So they could try something different. And CJ would fit very well on the Sixers. He would basically fit very well on any team since he's an elite shooter. He can handle the ball, he can create for others, and he's not like a ball dominant player. And Ben Simmons on the Blazers would be good since the Blazers have a lot of floor spacing, and I think a duo of him and Lillard could be a cool duo. Another trade that could happen maybe is the Sixers trading Ben Simmons to the Minnesota Timberwolves and D'Angelo Russell to the Philadelphia 76ers. And this is somewhat an interesting trade since D'Angelo would fit way better on the Sixers. The second thing the Philadelphia 76ers need to do is look into getting maybe a new head coach, because don't get it wrong, Doc Rivers is a good coach, because in the regular season he always coaches teams to their full potential and sometimes even past their potential. But the problem with Rivers is the fact that in the postseason he misses a lot of adjustments, and not just that, he always blows leads, which just shows that he's not on his players and 100% motivating them to stay in the game and stay in check and all things like that. Because I think he blew like 3 or 4 3-win leads, which is the most by any coach in NBA history. He also has lost 29 closeout games, which is the most in NBA history. And you can just talk about all the great teams he's had, but the stats don't lie. And what I noticed with the Sixers was that his rotations were pretty terrible, because he was constantly playing rotations filled with 4 bench players and then 1 starter like Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, or Tobias Harris. And in the playoffs, you can't do that because the other team is probably going to be playing a lot of their best players. And it just showed because because whenever they ran a lineup of 4 bench players and 1 starter, they would always do terrible, but he kept doing it. Also in that game 7, Doc Rivers literally played 10 players in that game, which makes no sense because in the regular season, most teams don't even play 10 players, but it's acceptable if you want to give players a chance. But in the postseason, you're not supposed to play 10 players unless they're all really good, and the Sixers' depth isn't amazing enough where they should be playing 10 players in a game 7. No team in the league really should be playing 10 players in a game 7. If we're being honest, you should be playing your best players 40 to 42 minutes. I don't want to put all the blame on Ben Simmons when it's clear that Doc Rivers hasn't been using him at his best potential, because he literally makes him dribble the ball up the court, then he just puts him in the dunk position. Like, he's not evolved enough in the offense. It's on Ben too, because he's not aggressive enough and he's not shooting the ball, but I'm not going to sit here and act like he's been used perfectly. So I think the Sixers should maybe consider looking into getting a new coach. I wouldn't be too angry if they kept Doc, because I still feel like he's a good coach, and I feel like third thing the Philadelphia 76ers need to do this offseason isn't really a trade or anything like that. It's just that they need to keep Joel Embiid happy, because Embiid is coming off of 5 straight years of not even making it past the second round. And a few times it actually has been his fault, but the last few times it hasn't. So what they need to do is literally anything they can do to make sure he's happy and that he's not going to leave, because Joel is literally carrying that whole franchise on his back, because with an injured knee he was still putting up 30 points every single game. And I know that just shows how great of a talent he is, but no matter what, the 76ers cannot allow him to leave, because if I'm being honest, I don't think the Sixers will make the playoffs for the next 5 years if he ever leaves. But to be honest, I don't think he's going to leave because he lost Philadelphia a lot. But maybe after another disappointing season or 2, he could request a trade. But Philadelphia definitely has to make the roster better to make sure Embiid stays. But to conclude the video, the Philadelphia 76ers really disappointed me. I believe that they could have actually went to the NBA Finals this year, since they did fit and match up well versus the Milwaukee Bucks. And them losing to an Atlanta Hawks team with no superstar on their team and them being a very young team is just so disappointing. Ben Simmons is just a disappointment, but I do still think he's a good NBA player. Obviously, he just needs to fix his mindset and start taking jump shots and just be an aggressive player. He doesn't even have to shoot threes, just shoot some mid-range shots and drive to the rim more aggressively. But as I said, Doc Rivers wasn't using him at his best, because he would just have him dribble up the court, then he would tell him to go in the post or in the dunker position, and he's just literally playing the center spot in that position. But the thing is, they already have the best center in the whole league in Joel Embiid, which is kind of useless. But nonetheless, I think big changes are coming to Philadelphia, and if I'm a Sixers fan, I would hope that's the case. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Let me know whether or not you think the Sixers should trade Ben Simmons. Drop a like on this video to help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want more NBA content like this. And if you want to help me reach my goal of 1,500 subscribers, comment on this video, start a conversation, as I do respond to all of my comments. And I'm out.